All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to week 12, College Talk Summer Series. This week we have the University of Oklahoma. Remind me, Leanne, one more time how to pronounce correctly, please.
Macquarie University.
Macquarie University, Loyola University of Chicago. So I'm excited as this is the second week that, actually the third time that we will have an international university presenting for us. So options of what it looks like to be abroad for all 4 years. Excited about that. And then we have a small private Jesuit university, and then we have a big state school in Oklahoma. So a little bit of everything for you this week. And I'm excited to introduce our presenters. So I'm going to switch it up a little bit this week, and I'm going to have the presenters present themselves, tell you a little bit more about themselves and how they got into higher education and what got them to be working with the university that they are working with. So first I'm going to go ahead and invite Leanne.
Thanks. Hi everyone, my name's Leanne Allen and I represent Macquarie University, which is in Sydney, Australia. I've been with the university for about 7 years, and I also did my master's in international relations with the university. And I've actually been based out in California for the last 5 years, recruiting students around the US and Canada and just telling them about the joys of studying in Australia. I've studied in 5 countries myself, so I definitely try and encourage students to beat me and make it 6 or 7 countries, because it's amazing how many opportunities there are out there for you.
Thank you, Leanne. And then next we have Emily.
Hi, I'm Emily. Emily Pacheco, and I represent Loyola University, Chicago. And I've been working in higher education since I took a student worker position in the international office as an undergraduate student, and that was many, many years ago. And from there, I've done so many different things in international education, in education, a lot of it being in international education, worked with international students for many years, helping them find opportunities in the United States to study. So I took a little shift a couple years ago and moved into working with domestic students. So now I'm with Loyola Chicago and helping students discover Chicago and discover what our Jesuit university has to offer. I really enjoy this work, helping students kind of find the right fit for them and kind of, going on this whole journey in education with them until it leads them to the door of a whole new adventure that they're ready to start. So I'm really excited to be here with you today to share a little bit about my university in Chicago with you.
Thank you, Emily. And last but not least, we have Amanda Marsh, but she is actually on another call and she is just delayed by a little bit. So she's going to pop in, and when she does her portion of the presentation, we're going to go ahead and have her introduce herself there. So without further ado, we're going to send it off to Leanne. She is going to go ahead and do her portion on the presentation. And just really quick housekeeping items. Once again, remember Q&A for the end. You can put your Q&A into the box and ask that there, and then we'll go ahead and answer your questions at the end. I do have a few that were submitted prior to, so we'll address those first, and then we'll go to the ones that will be live. Okay. All right. Thanks, Leanne. Here we go.
Thanks. Awesome. So as I said, my name's Leanne and I'm representing Macquarie University, which is in Sydney, Australia. And Australia isn't that far away, I promise. You fly out of either San Francisco or Los Angeles, and you generally leave at about 10 or 11 o'clock at night, fly throughout the night and arrive in Sydney about 6 or 7 in the morning. So it's not that far. I generally tell students it's like watching a season of Game of Thrones in one go. So you can sort of rationalize that. It's not that bad. It's a beautiful city in Sydney. Interestingly, Australia has 24 million people compared to California, which I think is about 36 million people, although Australia is the same geographical size as the United States. So very different sort of atmosphere in Australia, but also very similar, I think, culturally to California in terms of the outdoors lifestyle that we lead. We have amazing beaches in Sydney and also really incredible hiking, and we love fresh food. So it certainly isn't a huge cultural difference for Californians to come to Australia. If we go to the next slide. As I said previously, I've studied in 5 countries. So I'm a huge advocate for students studying overseas. If you don't go for the full 4 years or 3 years, that's okay. I highly recommend that you at least look at doing a semester abroad or something like that, because there's so many incredible opportunities available. I had a student who was graduated from a Bachelor of Arts with us in Sydney, came back to the US, and he got a job in New York. And he said he had to go through 5 stages of interviews, and at least 30 to 40% of every stage was just about his experience in Australia. And to be able to talk about that experience and be really confident and passionate about such an incredible experience makes it so much more powerful. And he said he got the job and he has already had 3 promotions in the last 2 years since doing that. So pretty incredible. Another sort of benefit of studying overseas is that you actually graduate faster, and I'll go into a lot more detail about that. But in most countries outside of the US and Canada and Scotland, degrees are actually 3 years because we don't do general education. So you need to know what you want to study. You go straight into that, you graduate in 3 years, and if you want to, you can actually do a master's in 1 year after graduating. So that certainly puts you far further ahead than a lot of your peers that would stay in the US. So it's worth considering that from a time advantage as well as a money advantage. It can cost huge savings there by taking one of these opportunities. And it certainly is a globalized world that we live in as well. So to be able to study overseas and have those travel opportunities where Australia is geographically based means you have amazing and affordable opportunities to spend your summer breaks in Thailand or Vietnam or Indonesia, for example. It's not that far to get to compared to coming from the US. So well worth considering those options as well. If we can head to the next slide. So I thought I would just share this with you, which generally gives pretty much a breakdown of the differences between Australia and US education. So as I was saying, the degrees are 3 years because we don't have that gen ed requirement. But because of that, you have to know what you want to study before applying. So when you apply to an Australian university, you're actually applying to a specific major. So that major dictates what scores you need and the GPA for entry. So it does change a little bit depending on what you want to study, but it is incredibly transparent. You can go to any website of an Australian university, see what scores you need to enter, and then you're generally guaranteed entry if you meet that requirement. We don't require essays or recommendation letters. It's very much a merit-based process. We sort of put it all in your hands. We say you're mature enough to make the decision if this is the best fit for you. So we let you make that decision. It's just a very different mentality to how the US schools see it. Applications are direct, they're generally online. For Macquarie's application, it takes about 10-15 minutes. It's free to apply as well, which I always forget to mention that because I forget that US schools charge so much for entry. And we do rolling admissions as well. So as soon as you're in your senior year and you have the test scores, if you're doing it, we are test optional at the moment because of COVID. But generally speaking, we would require the test scores. So you could apply in your first semester of year 12 or your senior year if you would like, and you would know whether or not you've got a place at a program. So that can be a really great option for students. Another thing to consider is if you want to do a professional program like medicine, veterinarian science, or law, for example, it can be a really good option to do that overseas. So at Macquarie, we have a 6-year Bachelor of Clinical Science and Doctor of Medicine program. I'll give a bit more detail of that shortly, but it's good to compare that 6 years as opposed to if you're doing it in the US, it would probably take 8 or 9 years to graduate from that same program. It's obviously a very expensive program, so well worth considering that. Similarly, a law degree can be done in Australia in 4 years out of high school, compared to the US, which is about 7 years. And veterinarian science is also 5 years in Australia compared to about 8 years here. So it's really worth considering those fast track programs if you're passionate about those areas and know that you do want to study it. Being an international school, aid is a little different as well. So you can take your US financial aid to about 200 schools outside of the US. You can't take Pell Grants though, so it's just the loans. And many schools, including Macquarie, have scholarships available to students that are merit-based. We don't do need-based scholarships for international students. So something else worth considering. Next page. So just give a little bit of information on the benefits of an Australian education. I've sort of spoken to it a little bit already, but the 3-year degree obviously is huge. And also how diverse Australia is. So 1 in 4 Australians are actually born overseas. So when you think about how multicultural that is, it's pretty amazing. Macquarie, for example, has 40,000 students, and of that there are 12,000 international students. So certainly one of my favourite things about the university, and I did my Master of International Relations there, like I said. So to be able to be in class with people from literally all over the world is pretty incredible. Other benefits include you can work while studying and you can stay in Australia once you graduate, which I'll also go through in a bit of detail coming up. But minimum wage in Australia is about $20 an hour. So that can be super helpful for students when you're thinking about the cost of education as well. I'll head on to the next one. This is Sydney for anyone who hasn't been before. I think it is a stunning city. It is very diverse, like I was saying. I think a lot of Californian students, their biggest complaint is you can't get good Mexican food in Sydney. But the difference is here I complain I can't get good Asian food. And it's just because of the geographical surroundings. So they're the fun things that you explore when you do study abroad as well. Macquarie's campus is about 25 minutes across from the downtown area of Sydney to campus. You actually go across the Sydney Harbour Bridge, which you can see there. And it gives me a little faith in humanity, but for those, 45 seconds that the train goes across the bridge, people actually look up from their smartphone technology and enjoy their natural beauty. It is a really pretty city as well. And I never really drove in Sydney because public transport is so good. So something else worth considering. You don't have to learn to drive on the other side of the bridge, which is helpful. Next slide. We can go again. So I'll give a bit of information about the university. So this is our campus. I like to say the best of both worlds because we are a bit out of the city. You have the big cosmopolitan city experience with the awesome beaches, and then you can retreat back to campus, which is a really beautiful parkland university. It's very vibrant on campus, although for Australian students, it's a little more like a commuter school as you would compare to a US school. We have about 4,000 students that live on campus, and then everyone else generally lives around campus. So it's still very vibrant all through the day and night. Lots of clubs and associations as well, like you would expect to find at a US school. Australian students want that same sort of experience as you. Biggest difference is we don't have the NCAA or anything like that, but we do have the Australian University Games, which students often say is the highlight of their academic careers. We don't have Greek life or, sororities or fraternities. I just like to joke it's Greek students enjoying life on campus. Heading on to the next one. So here's a general breakdown of the classes that we do offer at the university. The most popular programs for students coming in from California are generally our business administration and international business, as well as our criminology, counterterrorism. We have an amazing journalism program as well. And obviously I'm biased towards the international relations degree. Our engineering program is actually 4 years because at the final year is a honours thesis that you need to take. Marine sciences, another big favourite, and you do your placements on the Great Barrier Reef. So it's very practical and a really pretty sort of experience. It's very hands-on. Also, like I mentioned before, our clinical science and medicine program, which is 6 years, it's obviously quite, the scores you need to get into the program are much higher than the others programs, but that's because we have quite a small cap. So we only accept about 50 international students into the clinical science program every year. And it's also a very cool program in that the 5th year of your program, you actually go to India on a compulsory 3-month period where you go and really explore the different areas of medicine that you wouldn't have so much have the opportunity to see if you were in Australia or the US. And in your 6th year, you're able to return to the US and do clinical rotations at Dartmouth College or Washington St. Louis, which are top 10 medical schools here in the US. And that's just to make sure that if you do plan to come back to the US and practice, you're getting those skills and experiences early on, and you sort of start networking so you can go straight into, your residency here if that's what your plan is. So very diverse in terms of the classes that we do offer, and some very cool programs there as well. Generally speaking, we require about a 24 ACT or a 1200 SAT minimum scores, and for GPA it's about a 3.2. During COVID, as I said, we are test optional. So if you don't have an opportunity to take those test scores, that's okay. We will look at your GPA, and we generally look at the unweighted GPA. Heading on.
Leanne, I'm going to interrupt really quick. Normally I don't do this. So that's the average. If you are looking to do the clinical sciences,
Yes.
So obviously the GPA requirement would be a little higher. Is that what I'm assuming? Because now we're not going to have test scores?
Exactly. So you'll need about a probably close to a 3.8 to 4.0 GPA to get into the clinical science MD program. And if you have taken the test scores, it's generally about a 1400 SAT or about a 30 ACT.
Okay, thank you so much.
Pleasure. So this is generally just a cost breakdown of what it is like to study overseas. I know a lot of students think that it's super expensive and prohibitive, but to be honest, I have always been amazed at how expensive school is in the US. So tuition on average, and I say average because it does depend on the class that you want to take, they do have different costs associated with it, is about $24,000. The minimum is about 21,000, and it can go right through to the upper 50,000 if you are doing that clinical science degree, but of course it's also a 2-year degree, plus the 4 years at the other side of that. Living costs are approximately about $15,000. So cost of attendance is on average about 40,000 US dollars per year. And do remember, most of our degrees are the 3-year program, so it can be really affordable. I've done a bit of an analysis, and it's very similar to the in-state tuition of San Luis Obispo, if you are thinking about doing that. And of course, all these numbers are before financial aid and scholarships and that sort of thing as well. So definitely worth, considering overseas opportunities for that reason, that it can be a lot more affordable than many options in the US. If we could just head back one more, sorry. If you are welcome to stay in Australia and work after you graduate, students can do 2 years on a post-study work visa. The average graduate salary is about $55,000. So I've had a couple of students that have stayed in Australia and have really been able to start paying off a lot of their student loans very early on, which can be very helpful. US FAFSA loans and private loans are available as well, as I've mentioned, and we do have scholarships. So it is merit-based, but generally speaking, students could be looking at about a $10,000 scholarship towards their first year of tuition. So once you look at all those details, it can be quite affordable, and with the cost of attendance, that is pretty much everything we've calculated. So your flights to Australia once a year, and back home to visit your family as well, your insurances, living costs, entertainment, all that fun stuff. So generally, if you have access to about $40,000, you'll be able to live pretty comfortably in Sydney and have an opportunity to travel as well, which is also nice. Sorry, now we can head on. So in terms of the application process, it's pretty straightforward. It's an online application direct through the website. You can apply any time that you've got your test scores, or if you're applying with your GPA, it's best to do it after the first semester of your studies, so probably January, February next year. Interestingly, being in the Southern Hemisphere, our dates are a little different. So Australian students actually finish school at the end of December, and then they start in February, the end of February, usually the last week, and our second intake is the last week of July. So the majority of our US students do start at the end of July, but you certainly can defer until the following February if you want to. That's no problem at all. So just to sort of work that out for you, start at end of February, we go until June, which is our exam period. July is winter vacation. We start again at the end of July, all the way through until the last week of November. Depending on when your exams fall will sort of dictate whether or not you'll make it home for Thanksgiving. But then you're on 3-month summer vacation. So then you don't start again until the end of February. So the perks of being in the Southern Hemisphere, but that can also work really well for US students, because if you choose to come back to the US for your summer break, you could take internships opportunities up here, because you're obviously not going to have other competition from your colleagues because they'll already be back at school. Anyway, back to the application. So you apply with your passport. If you don't have it, that's okay. We'll get that further in the process, your transcripts and your test scores if you're submitting them. Once you receive an outcome, which is be about 2 weeks, you'll then apply for a scholarship. And we have just removed the personal statement and reference letter, so you can ignore that. And then once you have your offer letter, you can pay your deposit, pay for your overseas healthcare insurance, which is your insurance for the full duration of your studies in Australia. So you shouldn't have any out-of-pocket medical expenses. And it's generally about $2,000 for that full 3 years. We have universal healthcare in Australia, so it can be very helpful for students. Once all that's done, you'll apply for your student visa, which again is very straightforward, and come to Australia. And I'll help you throughout this entire process as well. So it's pretty streamlined and transparent, and yeah, very easy to do considering you're applying to an international school. Whew, I think that's, yeah, all done. I'm passing it on now, I think, to Amanda. And look forward to answering your questions at the end.
I think I might be going next, but I'm not sure. Did we move Amanda to second, Nagla, or do you want me to go next?
Sorry, I was muted. I actually do have Amanda next.
Okay, great.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Emily.
Hello, good morning. Thanks for flexibility with me getting on here, especially to my co-presenters. My name is Amanda Marsh and I work for the University of Oklahoma. I am also an alumnus of the institution, so I definitely have drank the Kool-Aid. I am slightly brainwashed because they did give me my degree and they do give me a paycheck. So I always say take everything with a grain of salt because I obviously love my institution and that's why I chose to work there. First and foremost, I wanted to address what we're doing this fall at Oklahoma because even the class of 2021 and 2022, they've been asking a lot of questions of what does campus look like right now for the fall. One of the things I like to highlight to my students coming from California, which I am based in San Diego, is that COVID has looked very different in Oklahoma than we have often seen here in California. Part of the reason is that people don't live on top of each other in the state of Oklahoma. It's also not a state that's driven by tourism. So we're not having a lot of people come from out of state. So we thankfully have not been hugely impacted. That's not to say that COVID's not there or anything like that. But we have been able to open campus this fall. So if you want to go ahead and hit the next slide. Most of our classes are still going to be online this fall. Anything that has over 40 students is required to be completely online. And even the classes that are under that, they have to be in a lecture hall that's at least 2 to 3 times the size of the enrollment for the class. At OU, only 4% of our classes ever have more than 100 students, but trying to use all those lecture halls when we're not known for being a big lecturing university definitely creates the challenge of us needing to move a lot of things online to help keep our students, our faculty, and our staff safe. We've granted every gap year request, every gap semester request, and any OU employee who does not feel comfortable returning to campus does not have to. So just wanted to put those out there as people wonder what's going on your campus this fall. So the next slide will show you the University of Oklahoma. I am not from OU. I'm not from Oklahoma, even though I am a graduate of the university. So I will say this is not what I was expecting during my college search process. This is our South Oval where the majority of our freshman classes will take. If you were to cross the street, if you were to just go below the slide, that's where the dorms are. So we're very much a residential campus. Our students do have to live on campus their freshman year, and then after that, it'll be completely up to them. Most students will move off campus. But I definitely wasn't expecting the beauty of OU when I first visited. It's very much that quintessential college town, the red brick buildings that go throughout. Our style of architecture is called Cherokee Gothic because we are on Native American land. And it really is one of the most beautiful campuses in the United States. I definitely got that, oh, this is campus, this is what college is supposed to feel like feeling as soon as I walked on OU's campus. We're going to talk today a little bit about our majors as well as the social and cultural aspects of Oklahoma because I assume many of you have never been to Oklahoma before. So academic-wise, we have over 170 different degree programs at OU. You really can major in anything. That's one of the great things about being a Tier 1 research institution is we have just about every program. We have a College of Liberal Arts, of engineering, of journalism, of business. We have lots of incredible programs. There are a few highlighted here. Our College of Journalism It's definitely a popular program. Students coming from out of state are looking for our advertising program as well as our broadcast, especially sports broadcasting is really big. Entrepreneurship is huge. Petroleum engineering, because we have a lot of oil and gas in Oklahoma. Meteorology, we are #1 in the nation for severe storm research. We are also the home of the National Weather Center. So if you want to study weather, you have to go to where weather is, and that is definitely in Oklahoma. One thing that always surprises students that I'm talking to is how strong our performing arts programs are. So we are known for being a football school, but you are probably more likely to play football at OU than to dance or perform on our stages because it is that competitive. And one thing for OU is that when you're admitted to the university, you're admitted to the university as a whole. You're not admitted to a degree granting program. So you're putting an application major, but that does not mean that you're in petroleum engineering. The only programs that you move directly into will be your performing arts programs that you audition for, and you're admitted separately from the university. You have to be admitted to both OU and to the program. And then our College of Aviation, if you are going for a flying option, you need to indicate that on your application. You cannot move into the major later. You cannot transfer and be a flight major. So if you're going for a professional pilot or aviation management with a flying option, that is something you need to indicate. And those are the only programs that are going to let you in directly freshman year. So those are just a couple, but like I said, 170 different programs on our campus. So literally anything you want to study, we have, or you can create your own major if there's something that we don't have for you. A lot of students choose OU because they want that traditional college feel. That's definitely why students are coming from out of state. Oklahoma is about 45% non-resident, so you would not be the only person who didn't grow up in Oklahoma or didn't grow up knowing our traditions or our fight song or things like that. We have over 550 organizations on our campus for students to get involved. We start that freshman experience with a freshman camp where you come to campus for 2 nights, 3 days, you live in the dorm room, you get to know other freshmen. Of course, COVID has changed that for the class that just started, but we're hopeful by next summer we will be back to doing that in person where everything was virtual this fall. But we have everything from Quidditch teams to Greek life to pre-med club, really whatever you want to do, whether it's hobby, community service, leadership-based. We are one of the largest Greek systems out there. We are 25% Greek across 5 different councils, including 3 different multicultural councils on our campus. Multicultural student life is really big at Oklahoma. We actually just brought in our most diverse freshman class in history, with over 35% of our students being from an underrepresented population, and 22% of our incoming class is first generation. So that is really huge for us. We're really excited. Our biggest multicultural student event for the year is Dia de los Muertos, that we see thousands of students and then people from Norman coming to see. We can't talk Oklahoma without talking football. We are definitely known for being on ESPN, on SportsCenter, and I'm okay if that's literally you've ever heard about Oklahoma, is that we have a football team, because I love OU football as a graduate of the university. Our stadium you get to hang out with in normal times, 86 to 87,000 of your best friends cheering on the Sooners to victory. It's really fun to have that competitive spirit and to be in your class on Friday where there's 18 students, and then to walk into a football stadium holding 85,000 plus and looking around going, oh my gosh, all of these people go here. I'm part of something so much bigger than myself, is a really cool experience. A fun fact is that our stadium would become the 4th largest city in Oklahoma if it was considered its own city, which is pretty crazy. Unfortunately, we're definitely not going to see it full this fall, but we're hopeful that by the time you come to campus, we'd be able to all cheer together again. We are just 25 miles south of the state capital of Oklahoma City. So while Norman is very much a college town, it is also a suburb. It's not in the middle of nowhere. So people who are living there, commuting up to Oklahoma City for work, about 100,000 people live in Norman full-time, separate from our undergraduate size, which is just around 22,000. So Oklahoma City, there's whitewater rafting, there's river boats, there's the NBA is normally there with the Oklahoma City Thunder there. Every major concert would come through, botanical garden, zoo, a great art scene, great nightlife. So all that is available to our students. The airport, of course, is huge if you're coming from out of state, having that airport access only 25 miles away. And the great news is in Oklahoma, 25 miles will only take 25 minutes. So that was very different when I first moved to California, is 25 miles could take, an hour, maybe 2 sometimes. We want to get you to Oklahoma, but we also want to get you out into the world. We do have our own campuses that are going to be in Arezzo, Italy and Puebla, Mexico. And then we have study abroad opportunities to get you to 200 different countries. At OU, 40% of our students will study abroad at some point, have a multicultural and international experience, which we're really proud of. And that's anything from 2 weeks abroad over winter break with your specific degree program, or a semester abroad at our own campus in Italy, or up to a full year abroad. So it really depends on what the students want to do. We have awesome journey programs which occur over the summer, and that's OU staff going abroad with you and traveling throughout a country. So that's how I did study abroad. I did Journey to Italy, and we started in Rome. We then went to Florence. We went to our campus in Arezzo, and then ended in Venice. I was gone for 6 weeks with that, had weekends off to go explore other countries and other parts of Italy. So I always encourage students, no matter where you're looking to go to school, please take advantage of study abroad opportunities. It's the easiest way to get overseas in your entire life. You get graded for going overseas, and you're paying the same tuition and fees that you're paying on our campus in Norman, or whatever campus you're at. Normally that's going to be the exact same. So please make sure you're looking into those study abroad opportunities. And I'm realizing I said 200 countries and I meant 200 cities, 80 countries. So my apologies on that one. So now that I've told you some highlights about OU, how do we do the application process? We have our own OU application. We're on the Common application. We're also on the Coalition app. It's truly up to you how you want to apply. If you're applying to other Common App or Coalition schools, use that application. If you're not, use our own. We have no preference. So this is our admissions pie chart, the things we're considering. Academics will be that big dark blue chunk that you'll see there. So normally that would be your GPA, rigor of coursework, rigor of your high school, all that still applies. Test score will be taken out this year, as we are test optional for admissions as well as scholarship. And test optional does truly mean test optional. It's not some secret of we actually do want your test. We understand that you might not be able to test at all. If you do have test scores, we're also happy to take them. The red portion is what we call our engagement. That'll be your extracurricular activities, how you're involved in your community, leadership, things like that. Of course, we understand that the past 6 months and moving forward are going to look a little bit different on your application this year. Don't worry, we are living through this with you, so we are well aware of the different struggles. The next component is your essay. No matter how you apply, you do need to complete the essay, and then we also have OU supplemental questions that are used for scholarship purposes. So you're applying for scholarship when you're applying to the university. The last piece will be letter of recommendation. We will take up to 3. If you submit more than that, we absolutely stop reading at the 3rd letter of recommendation. Make sure 1 is from the high school, and then the other 2 can be from anyone else that you would like. And they're not required. We will process your application without them, but I do strongly encourage the letters of recommendation, especially being test optional this year. The more information we can have on you, the better. All right, so to get admitted, of course, you need to complete your application first and foremost. That seems very important. The application's now open, and we'll go over deadlines in just a minute. High school transcript we need to see. However, your school reported grades for spring 2020 is how we will take them. We understand you have absolutely no control over that. So pass, fail, completed, letter score, number score, whatever it is, we will take it. ACT or SAT is completely optional. If you have one, great. If you don't, great. And then your essay, which I just went over, letter of recommendation, and then application fee. It is $40 to apply to OU. If you qualify for a fee waiver, we definitely will grant that. And we also have our alumni all donate fee waivers every year. So if you need a fee waiver or you want a fee waiver, just email me directly and I'm able to give you an alumni fee waiver code. And then you won't have to pay the application fee, because we know those definitely get pricey. Application opened up on August 1st. As you know, the FAFSA, your free application for federal student aid, will open up on October 1st. November 1st is our early action deadline, and if you're considering aviation or performing arts, we encourage that deadline strongly. It's also our first scholarship review will be done then, and then December 15th is the final scholarship deadline. You are able to apply after December 15th, but please apply when there is free money to be had. It makes everyone's life a lot easier. I love free money. You should love free money. If you don't love free money, I will take free money from you. All right, if you are able to test, if testing is a thing, we will take updated test scores through the end of your senior year. April 30th is the date that we say. If tests magically become available in April, in May, and June, we would continue to take them up until the day that you start at the university. May 1 is the commitment deadline, and then you have to schedule your orientation by June 15th. So those are the highlighted dates for you to know for your senior year. And now we're going to talk a little bit about cost, about scholarships, financial aid. How are we paying to go to OU? So one of the great things that definitely helps me in recruiting on the West Coast is that our total cost of attendance is right in line with what you would pay total cost of attendance at a UC if you were living out of the house. So while tuition and fees will be more because you're out of state, you're paying room and board in Norman, Oklahoma versus Los Angeles, Berkeley, San Diego. Definitely a cheaper room and board situation that you're going to find. So all in, you're looking at $40,000 a year. The great news is the majority of our students who are applying are receiving scholarships. Every October is when we update our scholarships for the year. When you're applying to OU, you're automatically considered for all scholarships. It's not a separate application you need to do. These are listed with test scores. This is for the class that just entered because they were able to all have test scores. But just wanting to give you a range that it goes from anywhere from $2,000 per year up to $14,000 per year. And then our National Merit Package is our largest package out there, which will cover all your tuition and fees while you're at the university. Our Award of Excellence, which is the second highest outside of the National Merit, that would bring you down to what in-state tuition is at OU. So just some things to note. The average student receives our Academic Achievement Award, which is $8,000 per year guaranteed for all 4 years at the university, because our average admitted GPA is a 3.6, falling right in that range of a 26 ACT and a 1250 SAT when we had test scores. But like I said, those will be redone, so they won't have the scholarships will not have the test score components. We are open for campus tours for current seniors only. Tours are looking a little bit different these days, as you can imagine. We don't have a general welcome session that starts each one. They are being capped at 10 people total throughout the day. We'll be going through groups that will total up to 40. Social distancing applies. It's all outside, so you're walking outside on campus the entire time. So you are able to visit, but of course the best way to visit right now is to do it virtually. So you can do it from the seat that you're sitting in right now, and all those virtual resources are on our website. All right, if you are on social media, we are too, so feel free to follow us. We're always doing giveaways, raffles, opportunities for scholarships are even on there if you participate in different opportunities. So definitely be looking for that if you are into social media, which I assume most everyone is these days. And that is all from me. Thank you so much for your time. I look forward to hearing any questions later.
Awesome. Thanks, Amanda. I think I'm up next and last here. Before I get started, again, my name's Emily, and one thing I didn't mention in my introduction is that I'm based in Oakland, California, and that's because I work with students out on the West Coast, and normally that includes a lot of traveling to visit schools and meet students in person. So if you do decide to apply, I would likely be the one that's reading your application as well. We read applications by region. So yes, you can go to the next slide here. We are a Jesuit university, so I'm going to start just giving you a little bit of information about what that means to be a Jesuit university. There are close to 200 Jesuit universities in the world, and we are one of the 27 that are in the United States, the only one in Chicago. So there are a few pillars to a Jesuit education. The first one is definitely providing a solid, well-rounded global education. So we have a core curriculum that all students take that really provides a solid base to the education students receive at Loyola. The other thing is we really value an individual as a whole. We use the phrase cura personalis, which means care of the whole person. We see you as a mind, body, and a spirit, and not one of those, if one of those is unhealthy, then the other two can't be in balance either. So we believe in not just making you a smart individual, but also taking care of your body and making sure that your entire experience, even outside of the classroom, is a valuable experience. And then finally, it's really a lot about social justice. We really believe in social justice, and we believe in equipping students to be ready to be global citizens. So not just going out there and getting a career that you're going to be happy with and making a lot of money, hopefully, but also knowing your place in the world, and ideally knowing how you can make the world a better place in what you're going to be doing in the future. So so that's a little bit about what it is to be a Jesuit university. You can go to the next one. Yeah. Our community, we are the largest population of undergraduate students of any of the Jesuit universities, but that just makes us a solid mid-sized university. It's large enough that we have over 80 different majors and over 250 different student clubs and student organizations, but it's small enough that you're going to recognize your friends on the campus when you're walking across campus, and your faculty members are likely going to know your name. We really pride ourselves on the diversity of our campus. So we have students that are coming from all 50 states with over 120 countries that are represented. And this diversity is really reflected in a rich, diverse learning environment that our campus provides its students. We are a Catholic university, so of course we do have a significant population of students who are either Catholic or come from Catholic faith backgrounds, but we also have a large percentage of students who come from other faith backgrounds or don't come from a faith background. So, you know, we have a lot of opportunities on the campus for our Catholic students, from a daily mass in our Madonna della Strada chapel. We have retreats and seminars, and of course a variety of Catholic courses that you could take. But for the population of students from other faith backgrounds, we also offer a lot for them. We have a Hall of Religions on campus that has a student-run mosque, a Punjab prayer center, a halal kitchen, a meditation space. So, you know, it's just a place that you can grow in whatever faith that you come to campus with, or if you don't want to explore spirituality in any way, that's okay too. The bottom line is all students are welcome at Loyola Chicago. We have two campuses in Chicago. The main campus, the one that you'd spend probably the majority of your time at, for sure your first year, and depending on your major, maybe throughout your 4 years, is our Lakeshore campus. And that's located right on the shores of Lake Michigan. It has a very traditional feeling campus. It's located in Rogers Park, about 30 minutes from downtown Chicago. And although we're in Chicago, you can see in the pictures here that we have really beautiful green spaces and you know, rolling quads that really give it that traditional liberal arts university feel. And then just being right on the lake is a very unique feature of our campus on the Lakeshore campus. Freshmen live in one of our 21 residence halls at Lakeshore. We have a 2-year residency requirement for our students. And this is also where the majority of our sporting events take place. Most of our club and student activities take place. And that core curriculum I mentioned, those classes are taken primarily at the Lakeshore campus. The second campus we have, our Water Tower campus, this is 6 buildings that are spread across 3 city blocks, and this is right in the heart of downtown Chicago. This is really where most of our professional schools are located: business, communication, education, social work, law school. That's where we house those schools at the Water Tower campus. The location makes it really easy for students to, you know, pursue an internship in the morning downtown, where there's, you know, where lots of companies are located, and then take our shuttle back to the main campus and maybe take classes in the afternoon at the Lakeshore campus. We do have the shuttle that runs all day from 7 a.m. to midnight, so it's very easy to get back and forth, but public transport also works very, very well, you know, across the Chicago area. The downtown campus, the downtown Water Tower campus has all the basic amenities that the main campus has. It has a library, it's where our law library is. It has a recreation space. It has lots of study areas. We have a cafe down there. So it does offer basically all the things that you can get on the main campus as well. Chicago is a great city to be a college student in. It is about the same size as New York, but with a whole lot fewer people, which I really like. I enjoy green spaces. I like, you know, I like that space that you have in Chicago, but I like the amenities of a cosmopolitan city. So it just makes it a really great place to be a college student. It offers really excellent musical venues that attract, you know, everyone from small name music groups to really big performances, and it hosts a really wide variety of festivals such as Lollapalooza that comes through every year, and of course our famous Rib Fest, less well known, but much yummier. That's held every June. And then we just, have a lot of theatrical productions that are put on there, and really great arts and art museums, just a lot to do outside of the campus in Chicago. Students who are coming to Loyola actually don't need to know their major before they come. We know that there's a lot of 17-year-olds who aren't quite sure yet what they want to do with the rest of their life or what career path they want to go down. And we are a good choice for those students. You can come in undecided, undeclared, and have up until the end of your second year to declare your major. What's listed here are the different schools that we have that are open to undergraduate students that have undergraduate programs in them, and I will kind of briefly go through them. Our College of Arts and Sciences, that's where our humanities and fine arts programs are located, our sciences, as well as our engineering programs. So we have 3 engineering programs. We have biomedical, computer, and environmental engineering offered. Our Quinlan School of Business, which is at our downtown campus, offers its own core curriculum. So what that means is you can come in as an undeclared business student because you want to do business, but you might not be sure yet if you want to do finance or supply chain management. So you can come in and jump right into that core curriculum and then declare your business within the business school by the end of your second year. The School of Communication is where we house our public relations program, our advertising, multimedia, and multimedia journalism. Being located in the 3rd largest media market in the United States really makes it a great place to study communication. One of the cool features that we have at our School of Communication is our Convergence Lab. Our Convergence Lab features a fully functioning broadcast newsroom, which is really similar to the one that you see on the Today's show. So our students put on full news productions there. Our nursing program is the one exception to coming in undeclared or undecided. We have one direct entry program at Loyola Chicago, and that's nursing. The nursing program is, to get it finished in 4 years. It's a very tight curriculum, so you do need to declare that at the time that you apply. It's a cohort model, meaning that you're working with basically the same group of students all throughout those 4 years, not going to all your classes together, but you're progressing through the program with your cohort. Your 3rd and 4th year, you're doing clinicals around the Chicago area. It's a great place to do clinicals because there's just so many different clinics and hospitals, places that you can really get great hands-on experience. And then the other cool thing that we have for our nursing students is our simulation lab, and that's where you're going to be able to practice medical procedures on real life dummies before getting out in the world and doing it on real people. Our School of Communication is unique because students actually start in the classroom their 1st year doing student observations. And that's really a foundation of the education degree, is the belief that students need to get a lot of experience in the classroom before they finish with their degree. So a student finishes over 1,100 hours of time in the classroom before they graduate, and they also have an ESL certificate that's embedded in their program. So both of those things just make our education students ready to jump into the classroom and make them very employable. The School of Social Work is the oldest program of social work in Illinois, and the unique thing about that program is if you're admitted to that program, you're actually automatically admitted to a 5-year bachelor's master's program. So that means you'll have the opportunity to stay at Loyola 1 more year, and you would finish with both a bachelor's and a master's degree in social work. And our Institute for Environmental Sustainability, this is the department that really leads our campus sustainability efforts. We've been really proud of being one of the most ranked one of the top greenest campuses by the Sierra Club. And one of the really cool, interesting things about our Institute for Environmental Sustainability is that they make biodiesel fuel. And that biodiesel fuel is made out of the grease runoff from our 3 cafeterias on campus. And then the byproduct of that biodiesel fuel is made into soap that we use in all the restrooms around the campus. So our students, can feel really good about eating French fries because it's powering our buses and keeping our hands clean. And finally, our Parkinson School of Health Sciences and public health. This is our newest school. It opened last fall. And the timing of that really, I don't think could have been better with everything that's going on in our world. This is where we offer our public health programs, our healthcare administration, and our exercise science programs. The next slide, yeah. Study abroad is a big thing for students at Loyola Chicago. And we've made sure that there's a lot of opportunities for students who want to incorporate this as part of their experience. We have programs that range from really short summer programs or a program during our January term, or you can take advantage of a whole semester or a year-long program abroad. Two of the great options are our own centers that we have. So we have a school in Italy, and we also have a school in Ho Chi Minh. So if you have ever been interested in going to Vietnam or Italy, and you can do that really, really easily as a student at Loyola Chicago. The classes are taught in English, and we have little campuses there with all the basic things that you'd find on our main campus. But if you have another country in mind, we can definitely probably make it happen. We have over 150 different programs in over 70 different countries. Our study abroad office is very well equipped to help you kind of explore those opportunities and find what's the right one for you. So huge, I'm a huge advocate of study abroad. I studied abroad myself, and I think every student should try to make that a part of their studies. The other real important pillar to education at Loyola is our philosophy of learn by doing. So, we have this, you'll see this in a number of ways on our campus. We have an Office of Experiential Learning that is very well equipped to help students find opportunities in research, find internships, or find volunteer or service learning projects that are happening around the area, or even outside of the area if there's something that a student might want to do in the summer. So that office helps students in that way, but we also have it in our curriculum. So students are required to complete what we call a course that has engaged learning before they graduate. And you can see the different options there of the different ways that students can kind of get involved in engaged learning. But yeah, this is definitely something that students do while they're students at Loyola. We really believe this goes along with kind of our social justice work, really believing in students getting out there and getting experience. So this is excellent in helping you prepare your resume and strengthen that for whatever you're going to do next. But it's really something that almost all of the students do. 98% of students do an internship at Loyola. Many of them do more than one internship. And I should also just mention research opportunities there are a lot of research opportunities at Loyola Chicago. Life outside of the classroom, we do have a very robust campus life, very vibrant campus life. I mentioned earlier, students live on the campus their freshman and sophomore years. So what that means is it doesn't get quiet when classes let out. It doesn't get quiet on the weekends. We have over 50% of our students coming from out of state. They're not going home for the most part on a 3-day weekend either. So we just have a lot that offer students outside of the classroom. Over 250 different clubs and student organizations. We do have a fraternity and sorority life. It's not a huge part of the campus. We don't have sorority houses or fraternity houses. It's much more of kind of a philanthropic social club more than anything. But outside of that, we offer, a variety of clubs such as social justice, Engineers for Social Justice is one of the clubs we have, Electronic Dance and Music Society, and of course our ever popular Hula Hoop Club. We are a Division I school, so we offer 13 different Division I sports. But outside of that, we have lots of opportunities for students to get involved in club or intramural sports, everything from lacrosse to water polo, volleyball, and we even have a Quidditch team which was made famous by Harry Potter. So there's really a diverse, diverse offering on the campus for what students get involved in. Moving on right here to our application process. So our application is up. You can find it 2 places. You can find it on our website, and you can also find it through the Common Application. We ask for all the typical things, but just like the other 2 schools we talked about who spoke earlier, we are test optional. We know that students are not really able to get those tests taken. It's been really, really difficult the last few months, and it doesn't look like it's going to get any easier. So we have changed our process to accommodate for that. What this means is we are going to look more heavily on your other items in your application. So this year, even more than in the past, your transcript's going to be very important. Your recommendation letter is going to be very, very important. And we're just going to be having to look at other parts of your application more than we have in the past. The essay and the resume is optional, but I always recommend it. You know, writing an essay really gives you a chance to show us something that you feel the application isn't coming through in the application. So we don't have a prompt, but you can use any prompt of your choice from another application, or just use that space to let us know something that isn't coming through in other areas. You can see there kind of the snapshot of the last incoming class. You know, that test scores part is going to change greatly, you know, because we're not going to have that in the next round. But generally, it's an average weighted GPA that we take, and the average is about a 3.78. The one important deadline, really the only date that's important for in terms of the application, is that the priority deadline of December 1st. And I'll talk a little bit on the next slide why that's so important. And that's because of scholarships and financial aid. So applying by that date, you are qualified for possibly getting the most amount of aid. Another nice thing about our application is that you don't have to apply separately for merit aid. We review your application, and at that point, if you qualify for that financial aid, it will say so with your decision letter. So right up front, you know, and it's a significant amount that you can receive. It ranges from $17,000 to $25,000 per year, bringing down the average cost that students pay out of pocket to about $29,000. There are additional scholarships that we offer. Those start coming out in December. Those are a little bit different. You do have to apply for those separately, and there's all kinds of different criteria for those, and really a large number of additional scholarships that we provide. We highly recommend that students do submit the FAFSA, which will, you know, be out later this year. And then the other thing I always suggest is, of course, take advantage of all the resources around you. Talk to your college counselor, talk to your community, look at websites that, you know, I'm always recommending, such as fastweb.com. You know, it's great you're starting early here, but it's really important to have those conversations, because you can find funding, you know, out there, but it does take some research and takes a little bit of extra work. But the bottom line is we are very generous in terms of merit-based aid. The vast majority of students do receive some kind of merit-based aid from us, which automatically makes that cost a little bit lower. And the next slide. And, you know, really what it comes down to for us is the value of the education that you're getting at Loyola. And we really are well equipped to help prepare you for the next steps. You know, for many students, that's graduating and beginning a job that they might have been able to secure at one of our numerous job fairs that we have throughout the year. For other students, that's, you know, they're prepared for that graduate program that they're going to be starting. So the vast majority of students, you know, are ready at the time that they graduate or very shortly after to jump right into either a career or jump into, you know, into graduate school. So, you know, yeah, that's very important. The other thing is we are very good at helping students get ready for medical school or law school. You know, we have a medical school ourselves. We offer a pre-med and a pre-law track where students are really, you know, working throughout their 4 years to make sure that their resume is solid, making sure that they're ready for that next step of either law school or graduate school. And then again, I just want to touch on that the research opportunities. So we are a heavily undergraduate school. Out of our 17,000 plus students, 12,000 of those are undergraduate. And it just means that there are lots of opportunities for undergraduate students to get involved in research. And many of our students report that that really helped them be prepared and help them, you know, to really jump into the next thing that they did after graduating. So I do like to mention that, you know, the cost of attending an out-of-state university such as Loyola can be very comparable to attending an in-state school, and while providing a very personalized and robust education that can be more conducive to how some students learn. So I just always encourage students to keep an open mind when it comes to, you know, selecting where they're going to apply, and not to be discouraged by that, you know, upfront cost of a school, because many times it can come with a very generous financial aid package that can make it very possible and make it kind of very comparable to even the in-state schools that you're looking at. So I like it to end on that note of reminding you to, you know, keep an open mind when putting that list together. And yeah, and make sure to stay connected to us. I think we're going to provide you with our contact information at the end. I am local, and I'm doing lots of, these days, Zoom meetings, meeting my students in the West. So I would love to be able to meet you one-on-one if that was something that you'd be interested in.
Emily, thank you so much. I'm coming back on now. So the one message that I got from everyone today, and which is I tell my students this all the time, is I have a school in Australia, a school in Chicago, and a school in Oklahoma, and all three of you have told the students and parents that are on today that it could cost less than what that would be going to school in California at a UC, which I repeatedly tell my students and parents this, but I think they don't think that that's actually possible. So it's great to hear that you know, the merit aid and the financial aid and grants and things that the schools offer can allow the students to have that bigger, broader experience outside of California. Once again, there's nothing wrong with California. You know, I think all three of us are actually all four of us are in California, correct? So here we are, all four of us in California, telling everybody to go outside of California. But you know, I will say for myself, and I know that I heard it from all of you, California is where you ended up. It's not how or where you started. And so the experiences that you received allowed you to help you make that decision as to where you wanted to be. And there's nothing wrong with coming back and living here after you've had your experience, but having experience, and I think it was Amanda that said, you're never going to get the opportunity to do this study abroad without the restrictions of being at work and other things. I mean, your only job is to go and learn and explore and do that. So, you know, if I could rewind and just do that portion again, I would. I don't want to, you know, take tests and do all that again. I'm good with that. I just want to travel and check out new schools and do that kind of stuff. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go through my slides very quickly. So remember, you know, we've got masterclass that is available to you. That is the least expensive option. Once a month, I'm on, we get through the important pieces. So for example, in October, that'll be the FAFSA fill out. November, we'll meet all the, you know, EA, ED deadlines. And so each month, one important aspect that needs to be met. And we'll be doing it as a group. It's basically, you know, master AP class of college admissions. So if you're interested in that, I still have a few spots available, even though technically it's already started, but we can still make that happen. Comprehensive packages for the younger ones, those of you who want to start early and get that done. We can start in on doing some of that interest profile, looking at, you know, the education and career path objectives, and, you know, helping you decide on what that looks like and what it will look like. As you can see, some schools require that you make a decision before you go in, others don't. Some programs need to be, a decision needs to be met before you decide you apply, and then others don't. So once again, just based on what you think you want to do and how to get there, the best way to get there. And then for my upperclassmen, you know, remember this is starting senior year right before in June. It's a 12-month process. As we all know, applying to college no longer takes just a quick application, send it in. There's more to it than that. So depending on how many meetings you are looking to have per month, that's up to you, and how motivated you are in your independent work. So here is our contact information. So Amanda, Leanne, and Emily, their emails are there. I know that they're more than happy to discuss with you one-on-one. They are unable to travel, so you will not see them on your school campus this coming fall. So the way to get in contact with them is to email them, and they will then set up an individual Zoom meeting with you, either walk you through their application process, give you some information with regards to your transcript and your and you know, test scores, if you have them, if you don't, what that looks like, into direct entry programs and pre-professional programs and stuff like that. That's also what I'm here for. I reach out and speak to them also. But if you want, you know, the information from quote unquote the horse's mouth, then there are the ones that are going to be reading your applications, as Emily said, because they are the regional people. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open it to Q&A, and I'm going to go ahead and go to the ones that were submitted before. So some of them were answered, but maybe just a little bit more clarification, and then whoever wants to pipe in, and we can just go in order, out of order, however you want to do it, ladies. It's up to you. The one that I'm seeing a lot, and I know this came from a parent. So with the impact of COVID, what are you seeing with regard to the deferment of a class from the class of 2020, and that could that possibly impact the class of 2021? So Amanda, I know that you mentioned that you guys granted all of your deferments and requests. So, you know, can you speak to that for us?
Yeah.
Or start?
I know that that is definitely a concern that we're hearing, is that there won't be space for us in fall 2021. So I have some good news for you. All universities have taken a financial hit during coronavirus. We are all going to need the biggest class ever in fall 2021. So we do not believe that it will impact. We still want to admit 4,400, I'm sorry, we still want to have 4,400 commit to the University of Oklahoma for freshman year next year outside of our gap year requests. So they are not taking spots from the incoming freshman class. At OU, we are treating our admissions funnel the same of, we want this many apps and this many admits and this many commits to the university. So we are having the same goals as our prior year. It's not taking away those spots, because a lot of students applying for gap year, we were able to talk to them about doing all of their classes online. So they're still in California doing it completely online. They didn't move into the dorms. That was something that we were able to grant. Or they deferred for a semester and they want to see what's going to be in spring 2021. And that also doesn't count against any of our freshman spots. So the hope is that it will not impact at all, because we will all want as many high school seniors then coming in as our freshmen in fall 2021. But I'll let the other ladies answer if their universities have a different outlook.
I think the next few months, we still don't fully know the implications. We didn't have a huge number defer. We also had most of the students that were able to go online. All of our students are online this semester, and out of an incoming class of 2,500, it looks like about 150 decided to not do that, not go online, but to defer to either spring or fall next year. We get the admission criteria. The admission team is given that criteria in about a month, and I'm very curious to see if it might be a little bit more competitive this year because of that, because we are expecting we might have to admit a little bit of a smaller class, but I don't think it's going to significantly change that. We will still have the goal of probably having a class of incoming freshmen that'll be 250, and then still permitting those 100 that deferred to just be added on top of that. So we're working way ahead to plan for that. But I would expect there to be some kind of effect on the next incoming class.
Thank you. Leanne?
In Australia, it's a little different. So in Sydney, they've done a really amazing job of making sure the virus doesn't spread, especially to the extent that it has in the United States. So our campus, the semester started at the last week of July, and everyone who's in Australia has gone back full-time on campus. For those who are out of Australia, they can't actually get into Australia because the borders are currently closed to non-Australian citizens. So those students have been asked to start online, and then they'll transition to Australia once it's safe to do so. And we actually didn't have any deferrals from the US, so it won't affect at all the class of 2021.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, what was the other one? I don't think any of you spoke to this, and so maybe this is something that was either overlooked or it's just not important. Do you use demonstrated interest when reviewing your applications? And now that we don't have that one more aspect of, you know, SAT or ACT score, Emily, you spoke to the fact that, you know, we're going to be looking at your transcripts and we're going to be looking at the essays and looking at these things. And so now, you know, not that no one did a holistic review. I know that most universities are doing holistic review, but now it's just going to be a little bit more weight on various different things. And so is this something that would be considered to be positive for your university?
I would definitely say it's positive. We don't have a criteria where I have a checklist and I have to have a student had to have reached out to me 3 times and visited the campus. But when I am doing a holistic review, I'm looking through that whole application, and those little you know, the conversation that the student had when they visited the campus, or the fact that they attended one of our online sessions about STEM, you know, that we're having, shows me a level, you know, shows me that the student is very interested in that area of study, and just helps me better understand the applicant in a different way than it does for a student that just doesn't have any of that in their file. So I do always strongly recommend students to kind of, you know, to reach out, to not be shy, to reach out to their admission counselor, to take advantage of us, you know, that are you know, normally close to by able to meet you in person, but these days we can jump on Zoom and do it that way. And when I do come across your application, I remember back and I look and, oh, that's right, we met on Zoom in, you know, in end of August, and I remember that conversation. She was super passionate about nursing. That's going to come top of mind, and those are the notes that I do have to put together for the committee that ultimately makes that decision. So I would say, you know, there's no set criteria that you have to have a certain number of interactions with us, you know, to be considered a good applicant. Not at all. There's students that are admitted who have not had those interactions. But as an admission counselor, it really gives me a better idea of who you are, the more information that I have in your file. And without test scores now, that's even, seems like it will be even more important than it has.
Thank you, Emily.
I definitely agree with that. When I'm reading an application and I already know a student's name, especially being at a large institution, that definitely resonates with me when I'm reading and going, oh yeah, this is a student that we had this conversation. And note that we're saying that we had the conversation with this student, not their parent, while you're going through this. For demonstrated interest online, I encourage you, if you're doing any sort of online information session with a university, make sure you're filling out whatever registration form they have, or they pop in the chat, or things like that. That way we are able to track it, because we know that that's going to be a little bit different than this year than seeing you in person and having you fill out an information card. And I would also say for us that when it comes to the highly selective scholarships, that's definitely where the demonstrated interest comes into play, because I know a student to be able to recommend and say, this is definitely a student who fits our president's leadership class. This is a student who fits our president's community service class. So those things definitely help to be able to know a little bit more about you beyond what's in the essay, because the people who are making those decisions on the selection committee call us and say, hey, what do you know about Amanda from San Diego? What's her deal? What is she interested in? What do her counselors say? And I have to be able to respond to that. And if my answer is, I've never heard of Amanda from San Diego, I have no idea, we've never interacted, I can't endorse you. So let me endorse you. That's literally my job.
Great, thanks, Amanda.
We're very much academic based, so we won't look at demonstrated interest at all. So nothing changes.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, what was the other one? This goes back to the test optional one. Everybody, as you can see, is a little concerned about the test optional. So with test optional and test blind policy admissions that are being, you know, rolled out for 2021, what factor of the application do you see having a greater impact in admissions decisions? So if you had to pick one, right? So I know it's a holistic review. I know, Leanne, you just said that it's just merit-based. But like, how can these students, and what aspect of the application should they, you know, they usually do SAT, ACT prep so that they can then go ahead and take this exam, right? That's no longer there. So in that prep time that they could have been using for SAT or ACT, where should they be punching it home?
I would say essay writing. That is, by your senior year, what you can still control is your essay. Your sixth semester transcript is your sixth semester transcript. We're not changing grades come August of our senior year. That's what you're applying with. The activities that you've completed to this point are the activities you've completed to this point. So your writing supplements are what are still really under your control. That, making sure your letters of recommendation are from people who really know you and are bringing a new aspect. If someone is just regurgitating your activity list to me, that hasn't told me anything beyond what your activity list already told me. So making sure that those letters of recommendation are bringing something new, because you're asking someone who really knows you, not someone who's seeing your resume for the first time. So I understand if a school asks for your high school counselor who has a caseload of 900 students who does not know you, but make sure that second recommendation is from someone who really personally knows you. And then that essay writing, that's definitely something you can spend your time on when you would have been doing some SAT or ACT prep.
Great, thanks, Amanda.
Yeah, for our application, I would definitely say there's more importance this cycle that would be put on the letter of recommendation. And I will, I agree with Amanda. We only require one, and it doesn't have to come from your counselor. So if your counselor isn't the one that knows you best, then go to a teacher or ask somebody else that can really enhance your application. Exactly what Amanda said, not just repeat what we already see there. We want to learn, we ideally like to learn something new in that letter of recommendation. Your transcript is going to be more important than it has in the past. I mean, that's the bottom line. We used to be able to look at those, at a score, and that, gave us a bigger picture of who you were, but we don't have that. So we are now going to have to look at your transcript heavier than we can. But as Amanda said, there's not too much you can do. The other thing you can work on is definitely your list of activities, but I like to call that a resume. And I really like when students put together a resume. For us, it's optional. You can just type out your activities in the list form that the application has, but I'll give you a little hint that when you submit a resume, it allows you to kind of put yourself together in a way that we get a better picture and a better overall image or picture of who you are in a resume that doesn't quite come through the same way when it's just the list of activities. So resume can be super helpful just because it's the same list of activities you're going to be typing in for all of your applications. But for some schools like us, it can actually save you time. You don't have to type out your activities, you just upload that resume. And as an admission counselor, I really like to see resumes. I see it as a student who's gone above and beyond. There isn't one perfect way to do a resume. A good resume can be done many ways. And don't worry that it's not stacked full of stuff. That's not what we're looking for. All of your things from caring for your nephew, the babysitting job you had, to a volunteer position that you did just a couple of weekends are important things that you can put on that. But I think a resume really helps give us a better overall picture of who you are.
Thank you, Emily. Leanne, anything? No?
No,
Okay.
it's all about your grades.
All right, well then that means your grades are your grades for last year, as Amanda and Emily said. So
could I say something real quick?
Sure,
Just
absolutely.
Ease any parents who might even be watching this later as you're having conversations with parents. Of course, I can only speak for my university because I can't pull everyone's admissions data in depth. But as we were looking at, as soon as the virus hit, we knew, okay, this is really going to mess up testing. That was very clear starting in April, I would say. It was very obvious to us. So running numbers for our university, in our past admission cycle, 96% of our admissions decisions would be the same when we removed the test score or had it. So I know that everyone is panicking of what is this going to look like and what are we going to do and how will they look at me without it? Well, when 20,000 kids apply and 19,000 of your friends don't have a test score either, we have to adapt. We have no choice. And I thought that was very reassuring to me as an admissions counselor because I'm very data driven and I like to see one more number. That's just me as a person. And when they said that, I thought, oh, so why were we harping so much on this test score and thinking it's the end all be all, especially at a large public institution? We often have to rely on that just based on sheer number of applications and students. But to hear that our decisions would have been the same 96% of the time means that our students who were going to be admitted are still going to be admitted. what we think will be more interesting is seeing how big our wait list is, and when we pull from the wait list might be a little bit different this year, depending on how students are applying and when they're committing and where they're committing and things like that. So I hope that eases a couple of fears, is that we will all be doing similar things of seeing what would have happened if we took out the test scores for last year. And that was really reassuring to me as an admissions counselor.
And that's wonderful to hear. And I'm, being the science background, and, I used to be a science teacher before I did independent counseling, and I'm data driven also. So I'm always with the Excel sheet going in every direction. So, to hear 96% of your applicants wouldn't have changed, that's huge. And I bet you, as the numbers start to come in and the data is available, I'm gonna go out on a limb here to say that those numbers are going to still be in that 90% and above across the board. So we'll see. So I think that's it for our questions, unless I have any live questions that are coming through, which I don't see right now. So I'm going to go ahead and say that you ladies did an amazing job, that there are no questions. And you answered all the questions. So once again, Amanda, Leanne, and Emily, their contact information is on screen. You can take a screenshot of this. The recording will be up and available to you tomorrow morning. You'll get a follow-up email with it attached, and you can go ahead and go back and listen to it. Go back to each school, rewind, listen, and reach out to our 3 representatives who graciously gave up their time today to present. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to call it. We're right about that hour-and-a-half mark. So it's perfect. Thank you very much, ladies. Emily, thank you for your time. Amanda, I appreciate you coming on, and I apologize about the mix-up in the beginning. So I'm glad that you were there. And Leanne, thank you for giving us some information about studying abroad.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Everyone, you have a great